demonic angel. Going to talk about a topic that is a part of my life for sure. Some thoughts on it. People have always, have asked me my thoughts. I've done a similar story, or whatever, where I talk about, some psychedelic, experiences I've had, my thoughts on that, and whatever. But I thought, well, people say, well, what do you think about weed? And I love weed. I have for a long time. Now, how much, for me personally, depends, because it's for now, it's like a range. Sometimes I'll go, I'll go a whole week or something. I'll go a whole week or something, and I won't smoke, or even eat edibles, and I'll just, it just won't get high, and it really doesn't, I don't have, withdrawals. Yeah, it's really, everybody's so different, right? I smoked cigarettes for 5 years, and then, when I quit, I smoked a pack a day for probably 3 of those years, maybe a half a pack the other 2. So, but when I finally quit, I got a headache for one day. So it was more of I don't know, another, self-soothing, obviously, kind of idea. But, people talk about how they have severe fucking problems quitting. So we're all different. But, yeah, I don't have to, taper off. I just don't get stoned for a week. Then it can kind of range from, I do it every day. Maybe for a while, I'll just do it, one bowl at night sometimes. And then there's other times where I get fucking stoned. Every once in a while. So, let's say once or twice a month, I probably, have some, edibles. And fucking, smoke some bowls while I wait for it to kick in. But I'm a pretty seasoned stoner, I would say, so that I really don't recommend that kind of, I used to do that when I was a lot younger, and, that would fuck me up really good. Yeah, I was trying to, think of some personal stories too, because not really most of it is, too much of my intellectual thoughts. Yeah, so it varies. So but I definitely try not to let it become a real crutch, I would say. To me, the way I look at it is that by smoking weed, doing pot, I'm choosing to basically disassociate from my, present moment, my sensory experiences. And I think that disassociation is all about the dosage, really. If, let's say, you never really, gain that different perspective or unwind, really have that experience of being disconnected from your senses. You can do that from sensory deprivation, other kinds of ideas like that. If you don't really have that that experience to understand that, then everybody disassociates in different ways. The problem is when it's to avoid, it's like avoidance, or really kind of addiction, or kind of a really bad habit, you could say. So those are really problems, because then you're just disassociating, just like somebody who just all they do is daydream. So that's just disassociating, from the present to the point where it's just that avoidance. So yeah, that's but in other ways, disassociation is kind of good. Let's say you had a bad day or whatever. Maybe you're even feeling a little sick, okay? And you're gonna get a little high. You can really kind of ease the tension in the body. You can let your mind wander, and then you're not feeling the pain so much. Or maybe you've been thinking about a loved one who's been passed away, and it just kind of, by disconnecting from your senses in that way, you just can kind of feel more free about those emotions, and kind of maybe cry alone or something. So that can, being disconnected from the here and now, to have that moment, that emotional moment, like I miss my grandpa or something, right? Yeah, oh my gosh, I leave clues about myself, I suppose. Speaking of, that's always heavy on my mind, I imagine. Not really so much in dark ways, but I am always curious about. So it's only been a few years since I found out about my biological grandfather's real identity. But, yeah, to kind of go back to the topic of tonight, that's what it kind of goes down to is whatever. So some thoughts, though, really, I guess, would be, if I think that as the frontal lobe of the brain is kind of the last thing that develops fully, which has to do with things like impulsivity. The brain is not, fully developed really till about age 25. So, for example, a skeleton who, let's say they're about 20, 22, you would look at the skeleton of a person that age, they're still going to have that little bit of, it looks like a crack, like somebody whacked you a skull over the head, cracked it open, because the brain is still fusing together. But about age 25, the skull completely fuses together. So if you look at the skull of a fully grown adult, that suture, it looks like, like I said, like a real crack down a rock, really. That won't be there because the brain is fully formed. So I do think that doing pot a little young is probably more of a negative thing, especially for people on the younger teenage side. I understand, like, if I could really kind of, talk to my younger self in that way, I probably would say maybe wait. Maybe, because I probably, let's see, I was about like 19 when I really became a stoner. I would have been like, wait a couple more years to really do that. I mean, because it's okay to do it a little bit, but it's just affecting the forming brain in this way. And I think that has to do with, a lot of our habits, I think habits and impulsiveness can really, to me, it seems pretty obvious how those might go together. If you're really just getting stoned all the time after high school, like, whatever, right? And it's like an everyday thing, it might be that what you're feeding your brain, your literally growing brain, is that, getting high to disassociate is the key to, whatever stressor is happening that you don't like. I mean, you probably find that pretty easy. So, yeah, just from that scientific kind of point of view, just wait till maybe your early 20s to really, I would say, incorporate it into your daily life. It's okay to try pot, I would say, but I'm not telling anybody anything to do. Just my, kind of opinions, because yeah, I think that teenagers, it's really a little young. Because it's really important to be present during that kind of, idea. And there's just important connections like this, synapses in the nerves. Neurotransmitters are really being, those connections are really being formed. So it's important to nourish those. I think I could see how pot, being constantly stoned while that front of the brain is forming, would be, if is related to impulsivity, you get high, and it would be, that might translate into behavior of instant self-gratification, because, getting high is like an instant ticket from whatever's happening. So, yeah, but I mean, a lot of, teenagers just do it every once in a while, and I really don't think that's a problem. Obviously, doing drugs is a little bit different than, when I used to be in school. There wasn't really, like, the fentanyl stuff. So, like, other students and people I associate with, they would do what I would consider pretty softcore, still illicit drugs though, and even weed was different back then, so but yeah, just to do that, and it's not, it was like, what they knew, hey, whatever drugs I bought, that's what that is going to be. Whatever drug you buy, you think that that's what's going to be. Today, I would never do any of those kinds of drugs at all, because I think that's fentanyl, I'm fucking dead, because it just takes that little grain of rice. So, I think that drugs are a lot different in that way. So definitely probably more important nowadays to be sticking with just pot, because I'm telling you what, I would turn that shit down the rest, I mean, I really will the rest of my life. Like, no way do I want that to be just what fucking takes me out after all this shit, So yeah, I mean, but now pot's more acceptable. So that kind of goes into all my stories, I guess, here. A little bit about how the culture was different. But, so no matter your age, you have to watch that. But I think adults can incorporate that, like, for example, smoking pot at night. But, I mean, you do have to watch stuff like that. Let's say you smoke pot every night. Your mind won't be able to really relax without it. And even people will get to that point, I've seen it before, where they smoke so much, and even they take melatonin, things like that don't really, matter anymore. I mean, eventually your neurotransmitters, they need a break from just getting high off pot. So, yeah, just other than that, don't drive really high. I mean, if you're fucked up, do the right thing. I mean, it's a lot different than being drunk. If you're kind of feeling a little, high, just sit down and have a snack and then think your decision through and be like, you know what, bro? Maybe I'll call somebody to pick me up instead, or, whatever, instead of driving because I'm a little too high. I think that's actually, at least for me, fairly easy to make those kinds of decisions with pot. Really, everybody's different, but yeah, what else? So I think that there's just some things like that to watch for. As far as rituals, I think it's okay to incorporate that into magic. With voodoo, some spirits like tobacco offerings and things like that. And you can do that. That's, people like talk about, doing shrooms and things like that. I've done that in with minor dosages of psychedelics, but not like to that point where you have to be not that fucked up to, still be able to perform a ritual. And that's considering if you already know the songs by heart. Because if you don't know the songs or the chants by heart, guarantee you won't remember that shit while you're, a little ungrounded. So I would have personally waited. So yeah, I guess now we get into sort of the personal stories. Again, I'm not advising you of anything at all. Oh yeah, just maybe another note would be, you get a little high. Be careful when you stand up, because it, can raise your blood pressure a little bit. So, just kind of take those few easy steps. If you've been sitting down for a while, and that way, you don't, when you truly get dizzy and disoriented, you could be young and fall into shit and hurt your head, Things go like that. Well, let's see. So, as far as pot specifically, I first tried pot with my cousin, and it wasn't supposed to be like this really big deal. He liked to listen to Sublime and Slightly Stoopid. Yeah, Slightly Stoopid. Papa Roach. Oh man, Bring Me the Horizon. Some of that beautiful, gorgeous, early 2000s kind of goth music that I still love. Yeah, and it was just passing me a joint. So him and a couple of friends. I didn't have a vehicle home from work at the time, so I just went to spend time with his relatives to work for the summer. It was like a teenage job. They were smoking grass. I took a few hits, almost fell asleep, and I was hungry. I ate when I kind of like I sort of came out of it, and then I got out of the car and went, somehow made it to the house. I think I ate somebody else's food or part of it. So people were like, where's the other half of my quesadilla? And I was like, oh, I don't fucking know, man. So, but he didn't really bring that out and offer that to me. So like for that summer, I was about 16. That was really the only, time I did that. It was just that it was treated as a casual thing. It hit me very hard. Then, I came back and whatever, of course, going to high school again. And a guy I was dating at the time in high school, obviously, he liked to skateboard around, drink hard liquor, which is really terrible for that kind of young, but, and, smoke grass with, as a group of whatever. So it was really, I would almost call it a sort of hobby, in the sense of they kind of would, at least as far as weed goes, they went all out. They had Cottonmouth King posters. They're sort of, basically this one guy had a backyard, and he made this really shitty sort of dip to skate on and whatever. And everybody would just hang out back there with all the posters. They had it was like a big poster of a naked woman, but everybody would shoot darts at it. And so I would do that. I'd join in the smoking, whatever. But that was, even then, you're not in high school, you don't live with somebody, like once a month. At that time, probably I was about 17, and I do remember I left this. I was like, oh, the sunset. You just don't understand. It looks so fucking beautiful because I'm high. And food. Wow, food tastes better. Really stoner kid stuff, like dumping a whole thing of barbecue on a fucking tablespoon of fries or something, and just being really fucked up from it. Because I really believed, I think before then, that there was despite the paranormal, there was a sort of limited perspective, and that was that it was just sort of one way. It's important to get good grades and try to be a perfect person, or that, oh gosh, how can I put it? So, whatever kind of random thought, my parents would, actually both of them, kind of call me fat as a kid, do some kind of weird, some fucked up shit, we used to have a snack drawer, and so other kids would come over and swim at my house as a kid, and they would, halfway through, maybe an hour, the adults, whatever, they would make them get out to piss and drink water. And so they would line up at the snack drawer, and my parents would say, they'd touch my belly and say, "Not you, Poochie," or, and you would think that I would hate my parents. I don't. They try. They have a lot of what's developed into mental illness, untreated, So, but smoking pot, at that time, even just that little bit, once a month, kind of made me think that maybe that's not so important. The way that I specifically look is not important, but I've really thought that it is, which is a really fucked up thing to say to any kid, but I can't imagine saying that to your own kid about their weight. But, yes, I'm ready to go. Freud would probably love me, to be completely, real with you guys. Okay, lay down on the couch and tell me about your fucked up life, and whatever. Your drug addicted dad, finding out about your biological grandfather. Oh boy, I think that, I don't know, maybe nothing would shock him, but I'm just saying that You know, it's kind of, I guess I have a storied life in that sense. I have a pretty mundane kind of life now, but I do actually really like that. It's an important part of my life. But yeah, fucking, then, let's see, so I ended up, working actually as a lifeguard for a few summers. I ended up being the assistant manager of a pool for 1 year. So I got a little bit of a pay raise. The manager would go out on trips out of town. So this was like way in the middle of nowhere where I'm actually from. I'm primarily from a small mining town, like that's isolated. So you'd have to drive hours, couple hours I think in the least in any direction to come across a city. So just out in the middle of nowhere, and I took that really seriously, you know. It was very rewarding. I was in great physical shape, swimming, laps. But yeah, I had one of my best friends who's just, you know, we're still really good friends. We were theater geeks together. She would just, she at that time she liked to do shrooms. She was a little older than me. And whatever, she was like, wait till you go to, you know, you go to school, whatever, out here, because we eventually went to school together. And, you know, we're going to do this and that. I mean, when I do this, it makes me see, you know, things. She used to like salvia. Holy fuck. So, like, okay, yeah, for real. That was in the late 2000s. Salvia, I'm not sure why, was all of a sudden that was like all the rage for like a year. Maybe 2007 to 2009. And I did it one time, and I got really, really high. It felt like gross. Kind of just almost like a dirty street drug kind of high, but she loved this shit, and I believe at the time it was available at gas stations. So she was fucking crazy, to be real. She would walk around the sort of gardens they would have around the school, like they have like little spots you can sit for nature, just fucking whip it out, smoke some salad. But she would scream, and I feel like we'd be trying to calm her down. And she'd do this, I mean, she really liked to disassociate. You know, in that sense of, I think it's probably experimentation. I mean, I know part of it, we've talked, that part of it is, you know, you say you're partying, but is it really dark? Is it avoid feelings? Yeah, you know, I mean, kind of have that. You know, she's I mean, the person she's become is really amazing. But I think back then it was just, we're teenagers partying, right? Not having negative coping skills. But I think eventually, you know, you start to feel those lies, I mean, a little bit. But, yeah, you know, you know, so but yeah, she liked, you know, grass a lot and whatever. So I was able to start doing that when I'd meet up with her. But I stayed behind or something for a little bit for something I had to do in my small town with school before I could transfer out. And basically, I had another boyfriend at the time from California who I believe that medical weed, you know, recreation, because I think they were the first state, right, to do recreational. So he had that in it was like those green jars, you know, and it says the dispensary name now that everybody kind of knows. So once again, kind of mid-2000s and stuff. And I mean, every night it was like smoking joints and taking I mean, they had like 4-foot bongs. You know, everybody was always smoking. There's like one other girl in the whole group that was sort of permanent, and big stoner. And it was like, so it's kind of like being a tomboy. I don't really know why. I think that, I suppose, I mean, maybe a few of my other experiences maybe make me seem that way. I think, you know, I like to be thought of as feminine, but I'm not afraid to swear. I'm not afraid to, well, a lot. But yeah, I I just, you know, was doing that on this regular basis, basically with the dudes, right, and just watching movies, getting stoned, and you know, we drive around town, and actually went out to an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere that had a. We ended up at a guitar-shaped pool, so the place is abandoned. However, they have guards on the property in front of it. So of course we saw the flashlights coming. We had to fucking go, but it's still a lot of fun to, you know, go do random shit like that. I think a lot of, you know, college kids probably do that. I was smoking pot, smoking grass the whole time, and it's illegal at this time. So it feels really wrong. I think that made that, you know, that really made that I don't know, attractive to not just myself, but I think people probably my age in general, because it was just such a taboo thing. And I mean, teenagers are going to be that way, no matter, you know, what the really extent is, you know. Yeah, what else? Oh, so I guess party story here would be, you know, again, kind of hanging out with that same friend. What else? She saved me from this woman who wanted to have her way with me, but I was really fucked up. It was like, you know, whatever, the same kind of idea, same place, I guess. Probably one was 1 week and one was the next week. I could do this shit and then I could go to work the next day back in the day. So she brought me pot brownies. It was like the first time I really just ate them either. So I was already drunk the first time I ate pot brownies, like 2 big ones. And I was fucked up. So I went outside. I mean, everybody was having this house party. This one guy had this house on the edge of town, and everybody would go to smoke weed and play like beer pong. So I'm out there holding onto the lawn, not because I'm puking, but I thought that I was going to fall off the world. So I'm yelling and screaming. And then I could feel this, like, somebody, you know, grabbing me and stuff like that. And I thought that they were trying to wrestle me because I was, like, you know, high and stuff. And some woman was saying some stuff like, you know, like, I like the way you smell, or, you know, something like that. So my friend, I still don't know what she did. So I think she eventually must put me in the car and took me home, dropped my ass off at the doorstep. I did come home. You know, my mom and dad opened the door. Are you, you know, drunk or high? I don't know. Go in your room. You need to, well, it basically ended up being because of their, I would say their, you know, other priorities besides their kids. They just kind of were like, well, as long as you pass school, like, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Because they don't really have that, you know, with something else taking your attention more than your kids, that's what's going to happen. So there wasn't really a guidance on it. It's still a tense moment for sure coming home. You know, fucking, yeah, you know, the next week I went back and we were just like smoking a lot. So we heard the cops coming, and I heard them pull up and yell for everybody to, you know, come out with their hands up in the house. I went in the bathroom and I fucking went under the kitchen, the fucking sink, and I fucking held my legs like that and everything, and I didn't get fucking caught. It was great. The only people who stayed behind was the owner of the house and his girlfriend, and eventually I heard the police leave, and I heard them talking, and it was like, they were like, oh man, that's really sucks, because the police cited people, and then I think like cited their house or some shit, and, you know, we'll be back later to make sure everything's cleaned up, whatever. So I fucking come out of the bathroom, and I'm like, what's up, guys? They're like, what the fuck, you didn't get caught? And I was like, no. I guess they wrote like 15 underage drinking tickets. And I'm pretty short, so I think that's how it worked. I actually heard a cop come into the bathroom. And I mean, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna get busted. So I got away with that. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm really cool. No, I mean, just I'm not, don't like be a stoner just to be like kind of cool that way. I'm just kind of explaining the ways that I thought. I really was kind of like an idiot in a lot of ways, but I was very kind of hurt. My dad was an addict at the time, and my parents, just did not have anything together at all. So, that was, I don't know, a way to not, feel that for me. But yeah, so that was just kind of a couple partying stories. Pot's never really been too negative, though. For me, I was an alcoholic for like 10 years. A whole different story, but yeah, so you can get better. I've been sober, I think like 6 years, something like that. Yeah. Very hard. I make a list of, I think, things that might help anybody trying to get sober. Kind of ease the, a lot of that is the things your body is lacking. Different kinds of maybe amino acids and other kinds of things like magnesium really make the difference when trying to get sober. Yeah. So as far as stoner stories go, oh man, I got so high over at basically my neighbor's house that I came back, and I had roommates at the time, so that everybody had to share a section of the like kitchen cabinets. Put your shit in this one, and I'll put my shit in this one. So I had like a can of beefaronis, and I was so high that I just, pulled the top off of the beefaronis, and I just fucking ate it cold. I mean, every bite was like a fancy restaurant in my mouth. Fucking, now that's high, as I became really more of a hardcore stoner, so I moved to a city, and then I became a hardcore stoner. Like, I'm talking like, I definitely don't smoke that much. Like, I would probably say, like, if we were just gonna do bowls, like, say, like, fucking smoking bowls out of bong, I probably smoked, like, 15, 20 bowls a day. I like blunts, but, really whatever. I loved all, those tall bongs people would have. Get that fucking good hit, putting ice in it, people put vodka in it, to whatever. So all those different fun ways to smoke weed. Cutting up an apple, smoking out of it. At first it hit me really hard, so I would get so high that I would fucking just, like, laugh. I would, like, grab my friend, and I would just fucking laugh. Like, so fucking hard I would almost pee my pants. Like, I'd be so high that I would just laugh till, like, it affected me like that. Now, I can get really high, but I'm not gonna, think that I'm, pissing my pants, and I sure as fuck am not gonna eat beefaroni straight out of the can. So yeah, that's, some stoner stories. So yeah, pretty funny. So it just, fucked me up though. And, I don't know, I just thought it was funny. Like, it felt funny, it's like funny, we're getting stoned as teenagers, and it's not legal. So there was also a really big hippie, population in this area. So I attended a bra burning party. I stopped wearing bras. I started dressing like I like psychedelics, but I also like psychedelic clothes and music. So like vintage psychedelic clothes are like some of my favorite, like psychedelic stuff and goth stuff. Oh yeah, another thing was so basically people started coming to me to ask me to make brownies. Back in the day, I used to put like a wet towel against the door with the air conditioner on, and like did 8 different fucking kinds of the strongest incense from the hippie shop going, and because I'd have to make the butter, and I made some like really strong, such good whatever brownies. People would literally be like, "Can you make me some? Here's the weed. Can you make me some?" And so that's what I kind of became known for. This one girl came over she'd been friends of mine for a while, because one of our mutual friends, she smoked. We're still really great friends, philosophy buddies from college, really. And so, you know, um, she came over and she's like, had never done pot. So she's like, I think it would be easier if I ate pot instead of smoke it because I have, you know, asthma or something like that. So I was like, say no more. You know, and I fucking was like, yeah, your digestive system, it makes it so you have to eat a lot to even get high, but it's really worth it. And she's like, okay. And she like 4 big ass chocolate chip cookies. So she called me like noon the next day, and she's like, I'm at school, so fucking high. I had to leave class. I sat in the bathroom for an hour, and like I can't stop eating. I still don't know where the fuck I am. Like I was like, that's so rad, you know. Like so she ended up getting a tattoo. Kind of I would say experiencing the culture of the city a little bit with me. I know she kind of moved on from that a little faster. I would say, but yeah. So other people would say, okay, I'll get, you know, I'll give you some weed, but you know, I want you to make a batch of brownies. In exchange, I might get you know, 5, 6 nugs, depending on what it was, for myself, you know, personal use. So that's a really good trade-off to me. I lived alone at the time and just did that, and you know, eventually kind of extended to, I think, more of a healthy kind of way to look at it, which is now, as part of getting sober off alcohol, I used to walk 5 miles to school and 5 miles back home. Then it kind of, you know, I got into such good shape that I would go out into the wilderness, like hiking. I dropped acid by myself. Don't recommend that. I think that anybody can have a simple thing gone wrong, but if there's another person, it's something easily survivable. So, you know, I really, as long as I live, I'm not going to be doing that kind of stuff, because you know, like I mentioned, so you know, you gotta take care of yourself. Anyway, so yeah, you know, I just pack a joint in a little tube I had in my backpack, and I'd smoke 1 joint on the way to walking, whatever, or 1 joint on the way back. Or I'd even go out when I go hiking. I'd put like joints in a little box or a bag, maybe stuck in between a couple feathers, and just leave it out there for people. So I left a bunch of joints for hippies out there, out in the wilderness. But I'd climb to the highest trail where you could overlook the city and just fucking smoke some grass at sunset. And that was a period of time where I was able to really stay sober for a while, you know, from alcohol. So it did help me do that. So it helped me with physical withdrawal symptoms, kind of going out of that. I think it's helped in a lot of ways. It's just about applying it. So now I can use it recreationally. I hope those stories were kind of funny to you guys. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that you know, fucking yeah. I really liked hanging out with other stoner stuff like that. I've tried, you know, wax, hash. Eh, you know, it's whatever. I mean, I like pot. I don't need it. You know,